Be Frank Network.
Thank you all for listening to this very special Happy Never After, or H&A Pod. I am Mara Merrick, and today we have a very special guest. And I invited her because we are coming off some of the most violent years against transgendered people. Back in 2020, it was the most violent. 2020 has seen at least 37 transgender and gender nonconforming people violently killed, more than any other year since Human Rights Campaign began tracking this data in 2013. Now, a lot of these deaths also could be mismarked, so it's at least 37 transgender people just for being transgender. Sadly, 2021 has already seen at least 15 transgender or gender nonconforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means just because of their gender nonconformity to whatever we, and I say we as the culture, have decided that they should exist under our guise and our rules. And not everyone fits in a box. So we need to talk about the history and how we can move forward and get everybody out of the political mindset and stop making anti-trans bills and start talking with our families to have families be a little more accepting. And most of these transgendered people have been violently killed by acquaintance or partner, so someone close to them. They're ignored, ostracized, excluded from full participation in communities, especially faith communities that are supposed to be welcoming to all. I just wanted to say some stats right up front before we have our guest on. And thank you guys all for listening. And I love you. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to a very special episode of Happy Never After. I'm your host, Mara Merrick. I've been divorced 3 times. I've been engaged 8. And so I know a little bit about heartbreak and changing your life and moving forward and moving on and still being victorious and not living in victimhood. And so here we are here with another story of being triumphant. So I'm really excited to bring this guest on. I've been talking to you for a little while and not being able to connect because I don't know how to spell out your email. And and finally got through to you. Vanessa Hill, welcome. I met you through my client. He kind of gave me a preview of your life. And so I was like, wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Okay, so can we talk about it?
We can talk about anything.
Beautiful.
I'm open to everything.
Okay, good. Okay, so you are a transgender, yes?
I'm a transgendered person.
Transgendered person. Okay, is that the correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So
But I'm not a stickler for things like that.
Okay. It's very challenging because some people want different pronouns, but it's hard to you can't guess it.
Yeah, I'm not very militant about that. I'd rather just get along with people. I mean, a lot of people who are transgender put a whole bunch of things after their name and stuff. I'm just me.
Yeah, and you seem very agreeable and sweet, and you have been very nice about setting up this time, so I can see that you probably aren't like, this is not the way. And people, some people like me who I'm trying because it's new. I'm from a tiny town in Rockford, Michigan, so this is where there was only like 11 white kids in my class, so it's a whole new world. This is a whole new thing.
I grew up in a tiny town in Connecticut.
You did?
Yeah.
And okay, so let's go through the story. So you were born biological male, and then when did you kind of know that that's not the life that you wanted to lead?
I always knew who I was, and but I also, revealing more than I do want to reveal, growing up in the 50s, it was best to fly under the radar.
Yeah. So you grew up in the 50s.
Yeah.
So this is why I think your story is incredible, because you were you during a very challenging time.
Yeah.
Yes. Like now, I feel like this is the height of animosity. I mean, it's still happening, but I mean, just a couple months ago, I was reading a transgender was being killed daily just because they were transgender during this pandemic when the violence has been kind of uproaring. But I was like, I can't even imagine what it would be like for you back then.
Yeah, well, I wanted to live a full life. I wanted to be myself, of course, but myself, that person, wanted to do all kinds of things. And so I was more into doing those things and thinking, I'll wait till later. And then I remember like watching a newsreel, which they had in those days. I saw Christine Jorgensen coming down the thing and go, something can be done about this. And then later on, when Renee Richards was playing tennis, I said, okay, we can do what we want to do. But also, too, in that time, I wanted to be the things I wanted to be. I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be an artist. And I wanted to do all of these things. And I said, this is not the time to do that. The only time it would have been helpful would be avoiding the draft for the Vietnam War.
Yeah, that'd be convenient. Donald Trump could have used that.
Yeah. Not anymore. It's been repealed. The military is back to letting us in. Not that I'm in a hurry.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go either.
But for a lot of people who live in small, difficult towns in different areas, that's their only way out of poverty, is to join the military. I've always been very much against the military, but they occasionally serve a useful purpose.
I almost went into the Air Force just to pay for college, and then I ended up moving to California so I could pay state tuition instead. Because my parents were like, no. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Good idea. Thanks.
My father ran away from home and joined up. And for him, that was the obvious best move. And he ended up being a fighter pilot in Europe during World War II.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. He ran away from home, essentially, to do that.
So he had you and then ran away from home?
No. I was born in 1950, a little after the war.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I'm old, but
you look
not that
great.
Old. Yeah, for a person 105, I look actually really pretty good. I'm breathing.
Excellent. Other 105-year-olds are not. So.
Yeah, he's 99, though, and he's still alive and doing quite well.
Whoa. Oh, my God. Okay, so he ran away, and then he had you. But that's so cool. How did he meet your mom?
He had a friend, and it was his friend's sister. And they corresponded over the war, and then he came home and surprised her at work.
Oh, my God, that's so cute.
Oh, it's a wonderful story. I practically cry when I hear it.
Are they still together? Or
he's 99. Together? My mom died at 92.
92. Still a long time to be together.
Yeah, they were together 69 years, 11 months, and 1 week.
Oh, my God.
They almost made it.
So cute. Did they show you guys... Do you have siblings?
No.
So it's just you?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Do you feel like they were a great role model for you for marriage and life and relationships and such?
My dad was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mom?
A little, well, in her own way, she was. I mean, they grew up in different times, and, my mom ended up going back to college, and after she had me, and then became a teacher. And so she was, in a way, very strong in that way, because she went back to school at 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my mom did also. She went to Aquinas. My mom is bipolar. I don't have a very great relationship.
We didn't have a very good relationship. My dad and I were wonderful together. My mom and I were not.
Do you ever feel like it's like a mother's, like a jealousy almost, that they're not getting the attention? Because I feel like sometimes there is that dynamic that happens with the parents where my dad loved us so much that he stopped taking her on dates and things. And I'm like, you just have to still have the care for the relationship.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
Oh.
I mean, I think my mom needed a lot. She was needy in a way emotionally. But I don't think she was jealous, no.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank God.
There were enough problems without that.
Yeah. Okay, so you wanted to be an architect. You wanted to be an artist. So you decided to suppress. You decided to do the old small town thing and shove it way deep down.
Well, I always knew who I was, and inside I was. Sometimes I felt like I was operating a kabuki puppet, and that person was the person who had to deal with the world, and when I wasn't in the world, I was me.
That's great. Did you have a lot of friends that were accepting? Were you more open in a private setting with friends?
Well, I was, let's see, in college, I ended up living with a woman who was accepting.
Nice.
But, when I was going to class and everything, I was sort of playing the role of the alpha male. So,
You were the puppet? Yep.
yeah, so I'm good at that. And she was okay with it. And then we were together for 10 years and I moved on.
Okay, wait. So you were with a woman?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't just live with her? Did you marry her?
No, I didn't.
You just lived with her? Very
For 10
progressive.
years.
Look at you.
Oh, yeah. Well, for the time it was, when my parents found out, there was a great deal of turmoil within the family.
Really? They would not have it?
They didn't have any choice.
Okay, so you're living with this woman in sin.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. It's for 10 years, and she was accepting, and then you moved on.
I moved on, and I met another woman.
Okay.
And I stayed with her for 25 years, and they were amazing. And then she died.
When she died of cancer?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. We'll get into that. I'm so sorry about that. I can't even imagine.
We were madly in love, and it was the worst possible thing that happened. But, she was a very happy and upbeat person. So after a couple of years of crying, I said, she'd be kind of pissed off if she knew I was walking around with a long face. So I worked very hard, and after a while, it's like muscle memory. I was happy again.
That's tough still, to lose the love of your life. But, and I hate to say that, but that cliched terms, like, at least you had the one.
She was.
She was...
we used to walk around, look at each other and go, we've got something special here that nobody... And she was, when she figured out who I was, she was very accepting.
Wow. So you met her under the guise of your alpha male?
Yes.
And you courted her as the alpha male?
Yes.
Okay. And then this is where it gets interesting. I was like, wow. When Richard was telling me about this, I was like, wow, that is such a really cool story, and what an awesome woman.
Oh, was, even without anything, our relationship, she was just awesome on her own.
Aw.
Amazing person.
Okay, so can you go through some of the details of like how you brought it up to her? How do you...
Well, I didn't bring it up to her. She figured it out.
Okay. How did she figure it out?
I don't know. I didn't ask, as long as I said, well, yes. And I said, we have, I guess, 3 choices. Either you can throw me out, or I can live part-time, or, I'll just go back to the way we were, because this is the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sort of quiet for 2 or 3 days. And then she said, well, can I see you?
Wait, you left? So she could have some...
She wanted to see me as you see me.
Oh.
And not as the alpha male person.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out of the bath, she said, my goodness, you look a lot better than I expected. And she was really good about it. And we ended up doing part-time in the beginning. And then she was also mischievous. And we were at our house in Cape Cod. It was Christmas morning. I'd made breakfast. We had champagne, fire going in the fireplace. And she starts in with, I really had a problem with this in the beginning. I'm going, why? Why is she doing this on Christmas morning?
Right.
Long pause. And then I could see the corner of her mouth curl up. She says, all I can say is Christmas shopping got a lot more interesting. Yes. And I used to go first. She said, this time I'm giving you one first. So, yeah, she was an amazingly supportive and helpful, creative person.
We need more of that in this world.
We do.
We really do. What was the timeline of alpha male, she had the talk, part-time, full-time?
It was we were together for 25 years after we dated for a year or so, and it was about halfway through that.
Halfway through is when... Halfway through?
Yeah.
That had to be very suffocating for you.
It was an amazing time in my life.
Okay.
We were both at the top of our careers. We were both charging, and I was really happy. I knew when I was alone, I was still always me, as you see me now. And, I'd been carrying this thing, and this is a person I dearly loved. Mm-hmm. And I felt I always had this little compartment I was hiding something in. So I felt an enormous relief when I was able to explain and tell her. But in the end, it didn't make a lot of difference.
What a great woman. Oh gosh, I mean, I can't even imagine. We definitely need more of that right now. That is the reason why I made a shift on this podcast, because I feel like we aren't having open, loving conversations with everyone. It's just very divisive and separating, and so we just need her. Did you guys procreate? Did you make any lovely children off of that beautiful heart?
No.
Son of a bitch. No.
Well, certain things are possible in the world and other things weren't. So
That's true.
Yeah, it wasn't through lack of trying, but we weren't actually trying to do that. We were just very intimate and loved each other. But she had been married before, and her husband had 4 children with another person, and she ended up bringing up the 3 women during their adolescence.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and
tough,
and I got to meet all of them, including former husbands, both of them, and everything was fine.
Did you guys have like careers? Like, were you in a similar field?
We met in our office.
Oh.
Yeah, she was doing huge interior design projects all over the world, and I was an architect doing a 42-story tower down at the tip of Manhattan.
Wow.
As a senior designer.
Wow.
So we were like, really going for it. And I was at work one day and I heard her laugh and fell in love without it. And I turned around and said, "Oh." And I said, "Stop staring." And then for 3 months, I kept figuring out how to ask her out. And one day she asked me out. So it solved that problem.
She really is like really in tune with you.
Yes, very much. Yeah.
So how did she ask you out?
She came and said, "You doing anything Tuesday? Let's go have a drink."
See, how easy was that?
Oh, yeah, it was really easy.
I had my best friend. I was going to introduce her to a guy that I thought she would like, and I was taking a nap, and I woke up to her practicing saying hello and saying things in the mirror. She was like, "Oh, hi, it's nice to meet you." I was like, "Oh my gosh, why do we make everything so hard?"
Well, she was this really interesting person. And I remember when I looked over and heard her laugh, she was telling a story to a group of people, and she was very much like that. And so she asked me out, and I had a panic attack. And I had in my wallet a little piece of paper with 10 things to say if I ran out of conversation. We never even needed to pull that out. We talked all night, and I knew by the time that we left that we both felt very close.
Where was your first date?
Oh, I don't remember. It's a bar that closed decades ago.
Yeah, it's definitely closed now. Did you ever have to deal with any violence or any bullying or brutality or anything?
Nothing really like that. Once I had gone to a political event in Brooklyn, and we'd gotten a ride back to 116th Street. And there was a guy, probably a junkie, hanging out of the top of the subway entrance, and he decided to follow me down the thing. He said, "I want to go home with you, honey." And I said, "Well, it's not happening." And went through the thing, and I always had my subway card, so I went right through the turnstile. He hopped the turnstile, and then I looked, and it was late at night. It was like 10:30, 11. I saw 2 other people who didn't look much safer. And then he followed me there and started talking to me. And, I was checking him out to see how he was dressed. If something happens, how would I defend myself? And then the train came, and then he got on the train with me.
With you?
With me, and was talking to me with his head 10 inches away. And finally I said, "My name's Vanessa, what's yours?" He said, "Oh, my name's Timothy." And I said, "Well, Timothy, my boyfriend is waiting for me at the other station, and is a person who really works out a lot, and we're supposed to go to dinner, and he's not going to be very happy if you emerge from the subway with me." And he got off to the next stop.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to bully the bully or outsmart them.
And also, too, I was ready to take him on once we got off, because I was the boyfriend he was having dinner. And it would have been a surprise to him, I think.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you were around so Pose came out. Did you see Pose on Netflix? The docuseries? No. What?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh.
I've lived in a cultural vacuum.
I know. I'm going to send it to you.
I was afraid of that when you asked me to. Gee, I don't know what's going on.
It's many transgendered persons that have Vogue as the dance culture, and that's how they would connect and communicate. And they had little teams that they would try to out Vogue each other. But it was a true story. At the end, when they show that like slow motion, here's all the true stories of things, and it was very sad. Like a lot of them, there was a lot of death by AIDS during that time. It was very sexually active in that group, and also I think that's how a lot of people had to make money, by selling their bodies. And
yeah, that's been a problem within our community. I was first started off volunteering at NYTAG, the New York Transgender Advocacy Group, and two of the founders worked 120. There's at the end of, I think it's 125th and First. They worked that area and started their career that way.
They sold themselves.
Yeah, they were
prostitutes.
sex workers.
Yeah, sex workers.
And that was one of the things as NYTAG we were fighting against it's called Walking While Trans. If they found you with a couple of condoms in your purse, more than one, you could be taken in for that, even if you just happened to be walking there and they pulled you in.
Police could do that and then charge you with being a sex worker.
Yes.
Wow.
That was, I guess, sufficient evidence. So that was one of the things I was slightly involved in. I was more involved with the gender legislation, the Gender Equality and Non-Discrimination Act, and trying to campaign and go to Albany and talk to people about that. I played a very tiny role. Other people had worked on that specific legislation for 12 to 14 years. And what helped it pass was when Trump was president, that's how I got involved. I read an article in the New York Times. It was October 21st, 2018. And it said that the government was specifically going after, through health, education, and welfare, which means you could be denied health care. And also, if you wanted to use the bathroom of your choice, probably not. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, you could be thrown out of your housing just for being who you were. Department of Labor, you could be fired from your job. And the military, which we talked about, and I didn't have a lot of interest in anyway. But the point of it was that I was reading this article. It was 10 o'clock at night, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I sent my resume and said I'd like to come in and volunteer. Because I said, I've never seen the government specifically target someone like me. I get up, I work really hard, I'm an architect, I pay my bills, I pay my taxes, I try to keep myself together. And why would anybody do this? And so I said, there's a time in life if you don't stand up. And if there wasn't a time more than this article I'm reading right now, and I interviewed and started volunteering and ended up taking trips to Albany to sort of push or ask people to look at different pieces of legislation, primarily the gender legislation. And because of the climate of the times, it passed. So in New York State, you were protected in all of those areas: your job, your housing, your need for health care, and even one of the things that didn't include, but we worked hard to try and get it, was veterans benefits. Because one of the women we were talking about earlier who walked the street was also a veteran.
Military, and they denied benefits.
She was having trouble and had trouble with veterans health care.
Veterans healthcare has a lot of hiccups. And I'm saying that in a very nice way. Veterans are not, in general, are not treated well, and then
they didn't use proper pronouns. They didn't treat her well. They treated her not only emotionally but physically as if she wasn't what she was.
Right.
So it was. But anyway, it worked. She is a really strong and powerful, tough person, and doesn't take anything from anyone. So she's a pretty solid person.
I mean, you have to be to deal with the ignorance of everyone as well. Man, it's such a really disappointing sometimes when you hear conversations in regards to this. But on the topic of bathrooms, why do we need to have separate? I've been to a lot of, I personal train during the day, and most of the facilities, most of the gyms that are built in the apartment complexes have co-ed bathrooms. So why not just make that a whole across the board? I don't know.
I think it's an excellent. If you go to the Museum of Modern Art, and go to the Modern Restaurant, they have beautifully designed, all set to do that, and it works wonderfully.
Right.
There's no reason. Some people, the complaint is, well, it's New York City. It takes up a little more space, et cetera. It really doesn't.
It takes less space.
It takes less space, right. And also, I don't know, there was a thing a few years ago called potty parity. And so if you go to the theater, there's an intermission.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guys are in and out. And there's a line at the other place. And there was inadequate accommodation. So the laws in New York are changing to accommodate that. I mean,
Good.
It's...
Now, do you also help other states? Because I know New York's a bit progressive, California's a bit progressive, Oregon, but then you get to Kansas. What's happening with that?
Yeah, I don't know what you can do for those states.
Mm-hmm.
I was very focused on New York. I've lived in New York, in Manhattan, since 1976. And so, I never really thought about it too much. And I'm relatively fortunate that I can go most places and sort of pass, and which is a heretical thing to say, but it is useful.
You mean pass?
Without it being questioned. I can go to South Carolina and go into the women's room and not be questioned,
right.
Even though it's against the law there.
It's against the law in South Carolina.
Yeah, if I went into the ladies' room, men's room, they called the ladies' room there, the women's room, they could come in, take me out, arrest me.
Oh my God, so many backwards laws.
Yeah, and it's specific to there, but I've never had any problem using the facility.
Why is sex work such a big industry for transgender people?
It's the only thing that's available. And there are people who are desperate, who need food and
Mm-hmm.
housing. You're out in the cold, you'll do anything.
Right. Survival mode will make you...
Yeah, it's definitely a survival thing.
Yeah.
It's not a profession that, I mean, at the high end, yeah, some people do it and they make $5,000 an hour and live really well. And that's about same number of people who are playing basketball and imagine themselves playing for the Knicks. It's not going to happen most of the time.
Right. I mean, because you were very strategic about your career and your family life, and which is unfortunate, I think, because you didn't have that freedom to be who you were the whole time while building a career. Do you think that if you were more open at work early, it wouldn't been a no-go?
Yes. I became principal in 2 firms later in my career, and I asked other principals when I came back, and they said during that time it would have been the end of your career.
Wow.
And also, too, I was very much off in the public face of a company as a principal, and people were very sensitive. And architecture is a very skin-of-the-teeth profession. You barely make it through in most firms. Every time there's a recession, they'll lay off 3/4 of the firm. It's just not a high-profit business.
They really want to become architects all the time, though. Do you know
And that's another problem, because every year there's as many architects produced by the universities as are actively practicing.
I blame Ayn Rand. Remember The Fountainhead? Did you read?
I made a specific point of never reading it.
I love your bubble that you create for yourself. Is it like a security bubble?
Well, no. There's a whole... Someone will call up and say, there's this program on about transgender people. And I just want to be like you or like anybody else. I want to be a woman in the world.
Right.
I'm more interested in feminist issues than trans issues, which is a heretical thing to say. But I was. And I like it when I wake up in the morning and don't even think about it. I just am a person. I'm a woman who lives in the world and does her thing, goes about her business. It was not what I had gone after, but when I went through life, I realized I had a moral and intellectual obligation to people like Christine Jorgensen, Renee Richards, Lily Alba, and people like that who I saw they were out there, and it made a difference. So I said, you really owe your community something to do. Mm-hmm. And so for a year, that was what I did a lot of the time. I was still practicing architecture, and I still am now.
You're still practicing?
Yeah, I'll get it right one of these years.
Wow.
I'm head of a small firm, and we have a number of projects. I have 2 partners that I work with on specific projects. And I know when I first came out to one of the partners, this was quite a while back, and it was Friday, and I was I had worked out, I was running my own company, so I used to squish all of my meetings into a day, and I would be other person for a day, and then the rest of the time, it was just me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Friday night, and I'd gotten dressed up nicely. I'd done my nails, and my business partner calls up. He says, "Oh, I'm supposed to meet the engineer. I met him, but we couldn't work it out. Can you come down here?" He said, "The engineer's gone." So I said, "Oh, great." So I said, "Screw it." I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm dressed a little differently." And he said, "Oh, that's okay. I am too." Now, you normally would wear a tie and everything, but it was 90 out, so we had a pair of Bermuda shorts on. Looked great. And so we were doing a bank on Fifth Avenue, and I got thinking, I'm kind of walking along. I said, whatever happens is whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
And as I crossed the street, it was in the middle of the block, I saw he looked up and he's watching me come down the street, but not like, "Hey, how you doing?" It was more like, he's checking me out. He's married. Anyway, I get there and I pass
Men
by
are
and he
dogs.
looks back up the street, and I took my sunglasses off, sort of Anna Wintour sunglasses off, and I said, "Mr. I presume?" And he looked at me and just gave me a big hug and said, "By the way, your birthday was this week. I want to take you to dinner after we work out the problem with the ductwork." And we worked it out. And then the weekend went by and we had another meeting on Tuesday. So I called him up and said, "Look, we're meeting this client.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'd rather just," he said, "Well, please don't take this in the wrong way." Oh, great. So I think Vanessa's going to be better than Bob ever was. To which I said, "Really?" And that was the beginning. And then after that, eventually all my clients were fine. In fact, new clients never knew, because I never changed the name of the firm. So they would think I was my partner's assistant.
Oh, see?
Then they would
That is
think,
very
"Oh, God, she's awfully
anti-feminism."
pushy. He's the partner," because I would introduce him. And sometimes I would make the mistake of saying there's only two partners in the firm, because there was only two then.
Mm-hmm.
And so they figured, well, she couldn't be the partner. So, and then I would start talking and doing things, because Rudy liked to stay more in the background and do other more technical things. And they go, "God, she's pushy." When he said, "Please take this the right way," but Vanessa would be better. I just wanted to reach out and hug him. He's such a great guy.
You've had some great people in your life.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Oh, gosh. Do you know, because I feel like I've thought about this in every way possible, but there's an argument out there that trans rights are infringing on the feminism movement. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have.
I am perplexed by that. I'm like, I don't understand. How is that? What are they talking about?
Yeah, I never could figure it out. I mean, I read about it and tried to understand it. I think Germaine Greer was someone who was a big advocate of not accepting transgender people. I think it was a little bit of a turf battle that, we have our own problems in our own movement,
Mm-hmm.
and don't make it worse for us. I don't know. I mean, I tried to find some sort of philosophical logic to what that it was about. I never was really able to come up with anything that made any sense to me. I heard some of the arguments, but they weren't convincing.
Yeah, I haven't.
I dismissed them and can't remember them.
I know. I was like, I really cannot even understand what they're talking about. The only thing. Okay, so here's the tough question: what do you think about the track trials that have been happening? The running track trials, where the transgender athlete competes amongst the women and just blows everybody out of the water.
Yeah, I think in sports it's hard to define that. A lot of it is physiological.
Mm-hmm.
I ran track in high school, and at that point was able to come close to the world record for women. So I realized that there were certain things. On the other hand, if any male wants to go and compete with Simone Biles for women's gymnastic, let him go. She'll kill him. There are certain sports where it might make sense. I think track and field may not be one of them because of physiological differences. I think if a transgender woman wants to try to compete as a men's weightlifter, well, okay, give it a try. And it's unfortunate because it says, oh, there are some different, but there are differences. And in terms of the work environment, no. In terms of in terms of capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of sports, there are some sports that I think it's just not fair in a way for specific sports.
I agree. I agree with that for specific sports. But also there was a test done with an all-women's pro soccer team playing against 14-year-old all-star boys, and the boys won. And it kept happening. It's like so they're just trying to prove, the genetics are different, and it's true. We women are stronger at some things and not at others, like being flexible, like
Right.
Simone, or being graceful. Oh man, she's so cute. She's so cute.
Yeah. I train, all the time. And one of the things I specifically work on is flexibility, because I do like going out in the world and being able to pass and not looking like I'm not. But part of the movement is that you should be able to be whoever you are. And if you don't pass, well, that's okay too. And I think that is okay, but it doesn't work for me personally.
Mm-hmm. You're a little vain. I like it.
Oh, I'm a lot vain, I'm sure.
I'm super vain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to Chicago this weekend with some clients to train some clients, and my boyfriend's coming and he's going to get his nose done. And I put 2 videos of a laser surgery that I was like, can he do this for my face so I never get old? And also I would like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what I got. Okay. This is my tool and I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
okay to be vain.
Yeah, right now I'm saving up to have some dental work done because I was flossing and ripped something out that I wish I still had.
Oh my God. I had to take a tooth out during the pandemic because I cracked it weightlifting. But
yeah, it was during the pandemic I noticed this one. It's a little wiggly, and I thought, well, maybe if I floss, and all of a sudden it just popped out into the sun. It's a good, so I stuck it back in, which was really weird, but it worked for a while, and then I sneezed once and lost it behind the refrigerator. Which was a good thing because I called up the next morning and made arrangements for an implant.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes. A good sneeze will set it.
I spent 2 hours, pulled out never found it. And I said, anything that's been under my refrigerator for 2 hours, can't use that anymore.
That's definitely not the 5-second rule.
Yeah.
So so you have this lovely long relationship with your wife, and then you find out she has cancer.
Yeah.
And how long was her battle?
She was first diagnosed about 10 years before she died.
10 years.
And went through chemotherapy, and it looked like everything was going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came back. And it was, the last year, things got progressively worse for her.
Was she mentally around? Was she...
Oh, completely. Yeah, 100%. Also, too, she never lost that ability to charm everyone around her. I mean, even the doctor was crying in the day she died. It was really that, and she'd only known him, only known her. Her doctor was a woman, still is, and even she was not because she was a woman, but because she had an emotional connection with her that was really strong.
Yeah, I've trained a lot of clients that have had cancer and have lost their fight, and it is heart-wrenching, and I can't even imagine losing the love of my life. How was your recovery from that? I cried every morning for 2 years, and I'd get it over with, and then go into the office and do the best I could. I'm doing that I'm doing fertility treatment, so I do that every morning. I watch a sad movie and I cry for a good hour and a half, and then I'm like, I think that's it. I think it's good, but yours is definitely different. And you would just go to work and live. Did you go to therapy?
No, I couldn't afford that. I'm an architect.
I just always think of architects as these like grandiose, huge paychecks. Just
there are times when
life.
It's really good, but then every time there's a recession, you get whacked.
Yeah, what's happening now with everything?
The profession is devastated.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what's happening next, because specifically what I used to do was do tall skyscrapers in Manhattan and the rest of the world. And, now you've got all these buildings sitting empty, people working at home, and they're thinking, well, maybe we only need 2/3 the space because a third of the time people can be at home, or 2/3 of the time, or maybe all the time for some people. But we're paying enormous square foot costs for these big towers in Manhattan and all everywhere. And so there's certainly it's put a damper on building new ones, which is what we do. I mean, once they're built, they're built.
You're done.
Well, it's also too that interior design, you may have 1 million square feet and you may be moving a huge corporation in. So there's a lot of work involved in that. But that's a little bit like being an undertaker. When things are bad, those firms are moving. So you're still designing where they're going to move into. But the buildings themselves, the architecture is really difficult. It's a terrible time. I've talked to some people from my old firm and they're not sure if they're going to make it.
Wow. Yeah, this pandemic has been crazy. It's been positive and very negative, and you have to find those silver linings. But one of my clients, her company was moving, and they had this $20 million renovation, interior design, was just about to break ground, and then pandemic, and nothing. She's like, it's over. We're all working from home for the foreseeable future. She moved back home to Bulgaria. I'm training her online 90 hours ahead of time. She's like, I don't even know, that poor interior designer just got cut. I'm like,
It's just, a lot of my friends don't have a job and they're not working. And, I think we had 3 or 4 projects ongoing and they all stopped right at the beginning. And most of them came back. In fact, some came out of the woodwork that we hadn't had for 2 or 3 years. And I was surprised to do that, but I was lucky, too, that we don't have space. We were a virtual office. If we need to meet a client, we go to their space. Because now I'm doing little projects in the boroughs, helping people who are just starting out and maybe doing their first little house renovation or doing whatever. And so we would still go there to their house, even during, a couple times, we're 4 months into the COVID year. And I'd be riding on this train out to the Bronx for 2 hours. I'm thinking, is it really worth it to do this? But, and one was a new project. And I'm just saying, there's a $4,000 check on the other end. Just keep it.
That subway ride is scary because no one's riding the subway except for people like the gentleman that stalked you that one night. It's it's scary.
Yeah, well, I took the subway down. I took the A train to get here.
Today?
Yeah, I take the subway.
I feel like now it's fine. It's getting better.
Well, one thing I've noticed that it used to be you'd be in the car and maybe 2 or 3 people no mask. Now everybody has a mask on. I almost never see someone without a mask on. And that's only the last 2 months. And now that the threat has reduced, people have finally wised up and done that. And I'm thinking, I'm wearing mine, but I got vaccinated.
I know. I feel like it's just the thing. Like, even when you're vaccinated, it's just a thing to do also.
Oh, I figure it's a political statement right now.
It is, for sure. Like, what team are you on?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. My one client got the vaccine and then the next day felt sick because it says, you might have some adverse reaction to this. And she had a sore throat for 3 days afterwards. And then she went in to see if she had strep. I was like, well, just go get it checked out to see if you have like strep or something. And she went in and they were like, you have COVID. And she went to a rapid test. And I said, did you talk to your regular physician? I said, because there is some COVID in every vaccine. So I was like, just like when you get the flu shot, there's some flu in there so that the antibodies know what to attack. Like, it's just a whole system. And those tests are made so that they read the smallest positive skew and they're like, yep, you're positive. And so she went back to her regular physician, tested her, and she was not. And I was like, I knew it.
But the side effects are truly there. And I remember the next day I suppose I've read somewhere, but it wasn't widely publicized because they didn't want people to think, oh, I got the shot and I didn't get a reaction. I must not be working. But I had muscle aches. My legs were cramping up, and I said, gee, I did a tough workout yesterday, but it's the same workout I always. It was Valentine's Day, and I was alone, so I made myself a nice breakfast and everything. I was finishing breakfast, and I'm going, I don't feel so good. I don't really feel. Oh, I'm okay. No, I'm not. Go back to bed, Vanessa. And I was sitting there and I felt miserable for 6 hours and then it went away.
6 hours. That's not bad.
No, well, it took 8 hours. After 6 hours, I was feeling, oh, I'm okay. And I started to get up, and then finally it was gone by the evening, late evening.
That is, this vaccine, go get it. Go get the vaccine. Everyone can get it now. So go get it, everyone. We need it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I felt crappy the next day, but it's a lot better than dying.
It really is, you know?
And I had 2 friends die, or one friend died, and another one is not really rejoining the world, and maybe not have survived to this point today. And they both got it in the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
We're visiting for other people, and it was before the vaccine. And so I had a friend who said, I'm taking it. I said, well, I have this friend and this friend. If they had the vaccine, they'd be alive. I strongly recommend you take it. And I would. A little side effect is just that, a little side effect.
Right. There's
You
modern
can
medicine.
have too many glasses of wine and have the same side effect the next day,
Especially at our age. You have a glass of wine now, it hits you different than when you were 21.
Yeah, well, you know my history, so I'm much older than you.
A little bit.
Well, 1950.
Okay, a touch more than a little
This is going
bit.
out to the world. Oh, well. You can tell by looking now, so it's okay.
Are you dating now? Have you gone on dates?
No, I've been pretty much, other than going on my projects, I was having phone sex with a friend for a while, but then that had to stop. So
A phone sex with a friend? Did you meet them with the intention to have phone sex, or
no, this
were you...
person wanted to ask me out, and I really wasn't interested. But I was sheltering with this woman who I'm not involved with in a way, but we're just really close friends.
like quarantining together?
We were quarantining.
Okay.
She was in one apartment. I'm in one, and she was in one next to mine and down one. So we're at corners of our apartment touched. So we'd watch TV together and do things, cook dinners and everything. And then she had another problem that infected her hip joint, which had been replaced before that. She's younger than I am, but has a lot of physical issues. And they had to remove all the work in there, and she's had to go into a nursing home, and now is living in assisted living. So the one person I had that I was spending time with, and I would go out on one of my subway adventures, and I'd come home and say, you're in a risk group, and should we separate for 2 weeks? She says, no, we're okay. Just sit over farther away. And so, yeah, that was the only really face-to-face, non-business oriented human interaction I had.
Wow. Since your wife has passed, you've only had one phone sex partner.
She died 16 years ago. I've dated a lot since then.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
No.
I'm like, let's get into
only since the beginning of COVID. I've only had one.
No, I'm talking about since your wife passed.
No. I dated a lot.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Yeah. So what's your longest relationship since your singlehood?
7 years.
7 years? God. I haven't even been married collectively that long. That is great.
Yeah.
7 years. How did you meet this person?
I was strolling through the park one day in May, literally. I saw her explaining something. It was Madison Park, and there was an exhibit. They always do exhibits there, and some of them are really good, from Saul LeWitt to a whole bunch of different really good artists. And there was one there. It was called Red, Yellow, Blue, and it was interesting, but not particularly well executed. I thought it was not one of the better pieces. And she was explaining it to these 2 women and was having trouble with her phone. I'm saying, gee, she's pretty nice. And so I went up and offered my service. I had just come back from a gallery opening. It was a Thursday night, and had a couple glasses of wine, so I offered my services. She looked like an artist, so I could kind of... And she had a bag from Heffley, which is they make hinges and things like that. And maybe an interior designer. Okay. So I went up and said, oh, you're having trouble. I have my phone. Why don't you give me... And then, I said, I'm an artist and I have my studios right around here. Would you like to come up and see my work? The old come up and see my etchings. We got to be really good friends, and then we became lovers, and then we were for a long time. And unfortunately, she had to move. And we still are in touch, and we still chat about
That's the only reason why you aren't together, is because she had to move?
Up to upstate New York, yeah.
Well, I guess that would be hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. I would get on the train for business, and it was a long way up north. It wasn't a short trip.
Manhattan, if you are more than a mile away, you're out of the demographic. That is not geographically desirable. That is, you want to stay within one train.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want any connections.
Yeah,
So,
this was a long way, and I couldn't even get to the town where she was living, easily without renting a car.
you seem so upbeat and vibrant and not, I don't know how to say it. It's not, I don't want to invalidate the trauma and your loss, because I definitely feel like you deal with these things, but you have such a good outlook on the future and life, and you're just like a gleaming aura of sunshine. It's like,
I've always sort of been that way. I've always
Oh.
been a really happy person,
I love
and
it.
I've had a fun life. I've done a lot of the things. If I wanted to do extreme skiing in Europe, I went and did it. If I wanted to go to Brazil when I was like 19 or 20, I went and did it on my own. And I made the money to do it. I didn't hit mom and dad up, because the answer would have been capital N, capital O. No, you're not doing that. In fact, I made the mistake of asking them to take me to the airport so I could fly to, Rio de Janeiro. And my dad was good about it. He gave me a ride up, and my mother came along, and she was literally clinging on to me, and I was dragging her along as I got to the thing, and the people said, "You can't get on the plane." Thank goodness. And so they were supportive, but not. But anyway, I've had a life where I've been able to go and do just about anything. I've been to Russia. I met another person I was dating, and we went to Russia together.
Oh my God. How'd you meet this person?
It was a gallery opening, and I noticed her as being
You're just
sort
a
of
little
interesting.
gallery pimp, You're just like,
Oh,
any artsy thing. And you're like,
Well, I'm an artist. I'm a working artist. I was until a few months ago a working artist, and then I kind of lost my way artistically. I'm still trying to figure out what to do and what's relevant. But anyway, I met her. Then I went and sat down at a place called the Trestle near the galleries in Chelsea. And I think it's gone now. And she ended up sitting next to me. So we started a conversation, and I invited her to my studio, and she came and looked at the things, and then we ended up dating, and then I ended up going to Russia with her.
What was cool? What was your favorite part about Russia?
Well, the whole experience was extraordinary. And because she was a curator, we would go to different museums, and the head of the museum would come out and take us through the museum and
that's
explain the
awesome.
exhibit. We took the subway everywhere, which, looking at the Cyrillic alphabet, I had no idea where I was. And then one night we went to a place, it was like the Academy Awards in the Arts, and I kept thinking, they had free cognac, and after her second or third one, I said, this is going to be interesting getting home. And somehow, by magic, we made the 3 trains to get out to the place where we lived, or her father lived, was we were staying with him, out in the suburbs, the Coney Island of Moscow.
Oh my God. Oh, that's scary.
She woke up the next morning and says, how do we get home? By luck. Because unlike here, until recently during COVID, the subway closes at 11.
Right.
And then to take a cab anywhere, and at that time, afterwards, here's my life savings.
Yeah.
You're not going to. So I was desperate to get home.
That is, relationships will have you do some crazy things.
Oh, yeah. For sure, yeah. But that's good.
Yeah.
It kind of brings you out of whatever you're in.
So you're in a rut now, artistically. Why don't you write a book?
My business partner keeps saying, why don't you write a book? I think it's just so I won't do architecture and torture him anymore. But I was thinking of that this week. I said, why don't you write a book? And I'm thinking, I don't think I'm sufficiently interesting. So
I think that's where you're wrong. And you could even include sketches in each one of your chapters. Maybe that correlate to the chapter. Have some sort of associated meaning.
that's kind of interesting. It's a possibility. I'll think about it. I'm always open. This week, I was thinking, well, if you're not going to, make visual art anymore, what is the meaning of your life other than just getting up and getting through things? And at 70 years old, you're at a crux where, what do I really want to do? I mean, and I went through this with my wife. It was interesting. It was not too long after. We were both designers. We sat down for 3 months and have a couple glasses of wine and decide what we really want and what are we going to do with the rest of our lives. And made some huge changes that were wonderful. And I realized that I'm going through that process now. What do I really want, and what do I want to do with the remaining time I have left?
Yeah.
My father's 99, but I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Please don't get hit by a bus tomorrow.
I'm not into it. I look both ways.
Okay, good. Some of these pedestrians,
Twice.
I feel like during COVID, they just feel like there's no traffic, and so they just wander into the street. I ride my bike everywhere, and I'm like, are you paying attention? Like, look both ways.
Well, the person I met in the park used to be like, it's still like that all the time. We'll just wander out into traffic, and I'm feeling like, you're going to get me killed. You're going to get me killed. Really, this is, I said, try looking both ways. Even on Fifth Avenue, there could be a bike coming the other way. Do that,
Just go ahead. Just nod both ways. I even yelled at a dad that had his daughter that just wheeled out into the, and I was like, teach her to look both ways. I was like, come on.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of aggressive urban street skating on rollerblades or inline skating.
Wait, didn't you do this with Richard?
We did go out to different places and we would skate around together. And then in those days, before people got pissed off about it, we would go into the nicest restaurant we could find and have brunch on Sundays. That was the thing.
With your skates on?
With our skates on.
How uncomfortable is it with your knees up so high?
You get over it. You just roll them out like that and sit there quite comfortable. It was fine. But I only did it with him. The rest of the time and he couldn't go a lot of the places that I was skating. I used to skate down Park Avenue and go through the little space under Grand Central at rush hour just to do it.
You are an adrenaline junkie.
I was. The extreme skiing was more about the beauty of the surroundings. I mean, you're at a peak on the top of the Alps and you can see for 50 or 70 miles and just row after row. You don't even see any trees. It's like you're on the moon. And then you're doing ballet or jumping off this thing that's really, it was exhilarating and exquisitely beautiful. I remember doing one thing that was, in Europe, they have different, they have diamond and double diamond. In this place, they had 5 crosses at the bottom for all the people who died as a little reminder. And I got halfway down, the difficult part down, and I looked down, and it was so emotionally overwhelming. I started crying, It was like, I had to wait till my eyes clipped so I could see the rest of it because it was just so exquisitely beautiful.
I thought that about the Grand Canyon when I saw that. I walked up and I was like, oh my gosh. It's just you have to take those moments and appreciate where you're at. I like that you are restarting and sitting down and thinking about it. And you're not just like, oh, this is just how my life is. Every day you can restart and do something else.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I know it's so exciting.
And sometimes you'll think of something, that's brilliant. And then next year, that's really not that brilliant. But you kind of just roll with it. And I'm generally pretty happy. I'm just a very up person. That was, I think, the reason I got along with Marlene, my wife, so well. We were just very happy. And we made each other very happy. We liked hanging out with each other. And I think people would look at us and go, they found something. They've got something special. And I think the problems I've had dating since then is, I think she ruined me for life. First of all, I used to, after my first relationship or during that, I was quite happy to be alone. But after 25 years with her, I was like, I don't want to be alone. It's so much better when you have someone who's really fun and full of energy with you.
Did you guys have downs?
Huh?
Did you have downs? Did you ever fight?
Not too often, no. And we'd have disagreements about things, but in fact, we were both only children, but we were both very strong individuals, and we would actually enjoy the parts of us that were different. Like, that color looks great on you. I wouldn't wear it, but it really it's perfect for you. And we kind of rejoiced in those little differences because there were nothing wrong with them. They were just different.
Different, right.
Yeah, and that was fine. No, it was pretty amazing because, even in the process of dating since then, I got a lot more irritable about things that are just, when someone's doing that, clearly doesn't agree with the way I would approach life.
Yeah. I went out with a guy at the beginning of COVID, and he was so COVID crazy that he wore his little muff up to his eyes, and then he kept it over his ears, and he kept adjusting it up over his ears the whole time. And I was like, oh, this is you're doing that on purpose. And then we got into a conversation on our first date about Trump. And this was the conversation because they would have these Zoom family situations, and the one aunt was like, I love him because of all these great things. And he's like, and we all disagreed with her, but I would just let her go because whatever. And I was like, you do have to stand up, and you can let her say what she needs to say, but you do need to be able to say, here's my thoughts and here's why I think you're wrong, in a cordial
I don't happen to agree with that.
Right.
And I think some of your information may not comport with reality.
Right. So, as he doesn't. And he was like, no, that's not who I am. And I was like, well, that's the type of person that I want to be with. I want to be with someone that has a point of view and stands up for it. And and I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And then he texted me later because we had met in a bar. And then he texted me, he's like, did I see you on Bumble? And I wrote, nope. And then he goes, oh, how are you? And I go, nope. I was like, that's enough. Don't waste your time.
Yeah, really.
Are you holding out hope that there might be someone else that you might be able to share time with? Or are you pretty
Hope springs
chill?
Eternal. But I actually have gotten very much used to my quiet, private life. And most of the people who are age appropriate for me are pretty settled in their ways. And if those ways are not similar enough to mine that we wouldn't,
mesh.
Every once in a while I think, how would I feel if this person moved in with me?
Not great.
Too great. We live a very big place, or this isn't going to work. In fact, the person I had been, was my lover for 7 years. I had that revelation one day, because I was hoping and then, it'd be horrible. I hope she doesn't move down.
I know. I was going to ask you, why didn't you just ask her to move in with you?
Yeah. The thing is, I couldn't support her the way she needs to be.
Like financially?
Yes.
Or,
And she had a friend that she'd been with a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That person provided certain things and didn't ask for others. And I couldn't do that as an architect. I just didn't have the resources to.
Right.
I could barely. Sometimes I have times where I'm doing really well, and other times I'm just scraping by. And I know the first person I lived with for 10 years said, you always seem to pull it out of the hat. And, I was only 30 then, or 28. It's just, I don't know if I can take that all the time. And, here I am all these years later. I'm still here.
Constantly in survival mode still. But a great attitude.
Well, it's either that or give up.
Yeah,
and
true.
then life's over. What's the point?
What is the point? Yeah, I don't know how I feel about I feel like that's not a real relationship when someone is financially obligating you to things. That's
no, I think
that's
that
an ugly part
I think that she needed to survive. She's my age. She's
mm-hmm.
3 months older, and I think that she realized that she couldn't pin her survival on me. As much as I would like to, and we could get by, but I think it's fine the way it worked out. And we're still friends, and we even talked as recently as a week or two ago, having a rendezvous somewhere. And so maybe that will work out as a new thing. I don't know. I don't know. A part of working out the rest of my life is deciding what am I looking for?
What are you looking for? Yeah.
Yeah. And I've already had something that was absolutely wonderful and ideal. I know that's not going to happen again. It's just you win the lottery once. There's no point in buying more tickets. Some people do, but I used to get up every morning. So I won the lottery today again.
You did?
Yeah. I felt was that wonderful.
Oh.
No, I never won the lottery.
Oh, I was like, I never win the lottery.
No, I won $200 once, 40-something years ago.
You're like,
it was a lot of money then.
Maybe everything's kind of on pause because you need to figure out what you're going to do next. And then
a little bit. And I think right now, during COVID, the opportunities to meet people are very limited.
Also, I had an epiphany the other day that you really don't end up alone. Everybody's so scared of ending up alone. You don't. You can go to a nursing home and there's a million other people there that you can hang out, befriend. You're not alone, but you get to sleep in your own bed, and that's kind of nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have friends and see people, but it's also wonderful if you can be emotionally involved with someone
mm-hmm.
and explore life and things together. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen very often. I look at most of the people I know, and they haven't found it.
Yeah, I had a comedian, Shane Smith, on, and he talked about his theory of love and how he doesn't want anyone to settle. He doesn't want to settle because it's selfish, because that person that you've settled with was meant for someone else to be their soul, like their soul fire. And you shouldn't settle for anything. You should have that passion and that great love.
I think it's the passion that's the most important. And passion just means about the other person, not about sex necessarily, but it's about really wanting to be around that other person a lot. I've had that moment and I know what it's like, but I'm not driven by it as much anymore. It's just I'm happy when I'm alone now too. It's worked that out. And one of the things in this last year, I've had a lot of time to explore being alone. So, you can Zoom all you want and do that, and I've done that. But something about being in the room with someone and, eye contact, movement. Somebody's cooking dinner that smells wonderful. It's a wonderful thing you just made. You cook for each other. But the abstract world, and I've lived for a long time in a world of abstraction, is not very stimulating in a way. You can get a lot of interesting ideas, but it's not like being with a person.
And having that connection.
Yeah.
Do you theorize then that people that don't want to have that connection maybe are just like afraid?
I think it runs the gamut. Some people are afraid. Some people want to have the opportunity to sleep with as many people as they can. There, a lot of guys are jerks.
A lot.
And there are a whole bunch of reasons why people get together or do things. And I think unless you're passionate, the other ones are not very good.
I absolutely agree. I really want you to write this book. I really want you to share your art. I think that would be awesome because there's got to be so much more to this Miss Extreme Skier. Like, come on.
In 70 years, I've covered a bit of ground, So the one thing is you accumulate along the way, the good and the bad.
That's true. I've made a few mistakes, but
I
were
like
fun.
to write, but I think I could write about just anything other than myself.
It is hard to write about yourself, but as there are a lot of people suffering with not feeling like they're allowed to be themselves, I think you could help those people a lot because you came out when it was really not accepted and not even close to becoming part of legislation. It was shuffled in the basement in the way back, and it was not a conversation that anybody had. It was so.
There was also a time after we'd done the thing of designing the rest of our lives, we bought a house on the tip of Cape Cod. And I was always who I was there 100% of the time. And then I'd come back home to being part-time. But it was rather strange. You're in a world where you're you. And then you go back to this other world where you're only you part-time. That was disorienting at times, And to make it worse, I was flying back and forth because you could fly there hugely inexpensively, like $200. Less than that. Round trip, 4 flights.
Wow.
Boston, Provincetown, round trip, $200. So it was like cheaper than renting a car. And then after 9/11, that changed. And then it was 3 times as much, and I ended up driving. But it was weird because we had this double life where we had the house in New York. It was a beautiful apartment in New York, and we had this place on the tip of Cape Cod.
And did you change into your alpha male before you got into the plane?
Oh, no, I was just me. I was only alpha male when I had to deal with someone
into the
who
office?
was expected that.
When did you decide that enough is enough? Like, I'm going to be me 100%.
In time, about 7 or 8 years ago.
That's it?
Well, I was before that. I'd go to Provincetown, and I didn't go there for that. I went there to hang out and be an artist, which is what we did. We designed this place as a studio. We finally got to do everything we wanted, and so I was there and I was perfectly happy. And at that point, it was dangerous, because I could run into somebody on the street. And although when I told my business partner, I said something like that, and he said, "You never passed by me. I would have expected you would say hello." I go, "You're so nice." I would have said hello. It would have been astonishing. But, and so it was, it was limiting in that way. But I was also very much enjoying my lifestyle of having a house by the water on the tip of Cape Cod, living in a 50-story building in the center of Manhattan. I realized that I could bring that to a rapid end. And that was part of me, too. I liked being Vanessa in both places.
Right.
And so I guess that was kind of not as morally pure as one might be.
So once you were Vanessa 100%, you're Vanessa now, did that just lift everything off your shoulders?
At the point when that happened, I was living in Manhattan 5 or 6 days a week as I was. And then after I came out, then it was like, but it was only a few hours difference, It was an accommodate. We all make accommodations, and that was the one I made, whether it was morally or intellectually, philosophically correct or not. It was the one I made, and I can't go back and change it,
Did you ever have any tough business transactions? I know I have a friend who transitioned, and a lot of his clients were in Dubai. And when she showed up to the meetings, it was not great.
Yeah, there are some cultural vacuums in the world, and Dubai, in some ways, is one of those. I've been lucky with my clients, and I've had to tell 2 or 3 clients because I never changed my name or the name of the business. At a certain point, I was working with this woman who was an attorney, and we were helping with this case. Essentially, this person had gotten a notification. They had to do certain things that were impossible. Landmark building, they couldn't do what that person wanted to do. And so I said to her, is there any chance the head of the firm may have to appear in court? She says, yeah, there's a chance. And my business partner decided to measure up in front of the other thing because he knew what was coming. And I said, well, here's my business card. She says, I already have your business card. I said, yeah, the name at the bottom is the name I use. The name at the top is my real name. And what you see is what you would get. Gave us 2 more projects. It was fine.
Oh, great.
So it works out. You just have to have a little courage, or also not care a little bit,
Yeah.
I mean, I cared about the project and what we were doing, but I didn't care if I lost it for that reason.
Wow. That's
and then
a great
I had
outlook.
one client who called me up, and it was an irritable client at times and a little bit difficult. And she said, I want to talk to the head of the firm. I said, well, anything I hear, that person will know, and it will be translated exactly as I hear it. I guarantee that. And I said, but I can make an arrangement, and the next time I would come to the site, I'll do that. And there was another one where I started to say, we need to talk about our conversation on the phone. And I already talked with my business partner. He decided he was going to measure something else because it's just easier that way. And I said, I have a little confession to make. I am the head of the firm, and I'm the same person you wanted to talk to. And I said, it's my fault because I wasn't, I feel like I was dishonest. I wasn't honest with you about what I was, but you don't want to start off with, you want to speak to so-and-so? Well, I'm really this person.
Right.
Before they've even seen you or done the thing. And this fight, we're far enough along, and all was, of course, forgiven, and everything was fine.
Yeah. It's kind of like Working Girl. Did you see that movie, Working Girl?
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Oh, I know. It's like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
When she's like, you can't get up into the tower unless you pull little strings and you lie to get up there. And it's like such a good movie. I love it. Very pro-woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it on the plane coming back from Europe the first time, and I've made a point of watching it every once in a while since then.
Carly Simon, every time I think about her, she was so skinny. Did you ever, I know that's a weird comment, but I watched her music video maybe a month ago, and I was like, ooh, this is Let the River Run, from the...
Yeah.
And she's in the back of the Staten Island ferry, and her waist was so... She had these huge, remember the 80s and 90s major shirt dress, huge, but her waist was cinched down so small. I was like, look, she's tiny.
I have that video on my phone.
You
I watch
do?
it on the subway.
I
it's great. And then there's another one where she's doing a performance out on Long Island. It's outdoors. And it's,
I love that movie. And Marshall, the producer, was worked on the sound on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm watching it. I probably watched it at 3 a.m. or something, and I text him, I think, at 4:30, and I was like, you never told me you worked on Working Girl. That's my favorite movie.
Oh, yeah. It's right up there in the top 15 or 20 movies.
Good. Maybe that'll inspire you. Watch it again.
We'll get
the
I'll
Jesus
I'll try
flowing.
anything.
Okay, good. Perfect. It was really great meeting with you. Can people follow you? Do you have social media?
I have a Facebook page I never look at.
I just gave up Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, and I have an Instagram account. I'm on LinkedIn because there was a business thing. I never look at that either. But if someone wants to contact me, they can contact you, and I'll be happy to talk to them just about anything.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. When you put this out, you can put my email address on it.
Oh, amazing. Vanessa Hill, you have been an absolute delight. I hope that you saved my life. You're a little bit of sunshine. We all need it. And everyone, please listen to the episode. If you have a story to share, please, if you want to reach out, do that as well. If you need help, we're always here. And remember, every day you can just restart and make a whole new life for yourself. Have 3 glasses of wine and work it out.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Happy Never After. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you guys all for listening. We all need to feel safe, and we all need to celebrate all lives. So I love you guys. I celebrate you. And if you need to reach out to Vanessa, you can do so. Just go ahead and check out HNA Pod on Instagram, and I will put all of her contact information there. Thank you guys. Have a great week.